So without wasting our time, please, can we take the safety briefing by Dr. Chioma Madewesi? Dr. Chioma, are you here with us? Okay. 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 I think maybe due to network issue. Yeah. Okay. Let me just take on the safety briefing on behalf of Dr. Chioma. So having said that, what I want to talk about is about domestic accidents. And one key thing that we should all know about domestic accidents is that it can happen to any one of us. And it's something that can happen to either the father, the mother, the children, any of our ward that is with us. So, and it is of essence that every one of us should take note of it, ranging from the fire incidents that often at this period of time that we do experience in certain quarters. It is necessary that if we are going out at any moment of the day, please let us off all our electrical appliances so that we can save our home. You can save our home. That, like one that just happened in Onitsha last month. One of our students, all her certificate got burnt, and the grandmother was in the room also when the fire started. It burned both the grandmother as well. So it's a domestic accident. So it's not just the NEPA people that usually call them brought the light, and there was I think over voltage and explosion occurred, and it got the entire flat burnt, and their grandma that is there, we are also burnt as well. So please, at this time of the year, it's always advisable if you are living at home, let us endeavor to off our electrical appliances. And then secondly, please, most often all our houses have ties that we have around. The ties, let us endeavor to make sure that there's no water on the tie, because someone can easily fell there and hit his hair or his anywhere, maybe either on the wall or on the floor. So please, let's endeavor to make sure that our floors are always dry. If you drop any water on it, please endeavor to just clean it up immediately. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody. So please, let's take note of that. And another one that is so conversant with us is when we are going to our bedroom, please let us always be mindful of the way we walk. After bathing, the way we start coming out from the bedroom. A lot has happened, and it's our prayer that none of us will fall victim of this. So having said it, there are so many. If you start talking about home accidents, there are so many. So the safety briefing today is, please let us be aware of the domestic accidents. It's of essence that all of us should just take care of it. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening. Thank you. So without wasting our time, we'll be going on straight to the next agenda that we have on the call. The next agenda that we have is, please, may I permit us to just have a minute silence for the soul of two of our members that we just lost in the month of February. These two guys are young professionals of NAPE. Both of them are fully involved in NAPE. Late Ugochukwu Elomba and Miss Chisom Achilong. So please, let us go ahead. Let us go ahead to just do a minute silence for both of them. Please, just a minute silence. May the soul of Ugochukwu and Chisom rest in peace. Amen. So thank you.
Amen.
On this dam, I want to thank the young professionals for really taking part in the burial. They are doing great during the YP lead. So they have shown serious concern to the families, especially that of Chisum. They have extended their warmest consolation to the family. So we are really grateful to the family of NAPE for showing concern. So having said that, I am the coordinator of NAPE Awka Owerri chapter. Dr. Ifeanyi Chunko is my name, and my co-ESCO. Having said that, these are our ESCOs. So having said that, Awka Owerri chapter has moved forth from the previous coordinator down to the present executive. And some of the activities we have carried out throughout this period that we are. Last year is our student chapter taking on in their field trip, both at UNIZIC, UNN, even at FUNAI also, and others that we have. FUTO also did theirs last year as well. So we'll keep on promoting what we have. And just last year, our immediate past president visited one of the alumni where we have the students at UNIZIC. They welcomed him, and he now gave a talk that he gave to encourage the young geoscientists, which are the upcoming NAPE members that we have around. And some of our members also received some presentation from NAPE, such as one of them is Dave. Dave actually is a strong member of Awka Owerri chapter. He has been supporting us in several ways. And other members that we had, and some of the cross section of our technical meeting that we did last year, physical technical meeting at Abakaliki, where Professor that have this year. Last year, we have our Please confirm if you can hear me, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, so having said that, we'll now move straight to today's presentation that we have around today, then which is now, which will be taken by Mr. Alex Oshodi, and it will be coordinated by our own Mr. Emeka Ejika. From his company, from the tech. Have your permission to welcome our president, Mrs. Olujumoke Cecilia Ajayi, FNAPE. Madam President, ma, are you on call?
Madam is not yet available.
Okay. So,
the Vice President and the President-elect are here.
Okay. So, the VP, I don't know if you can stand in for Madam President, sir. VP, sir. Can you stand in from Madam President?
Yes, please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
I hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to the executives, the officers, and members of our esteemed Awka Owerri chapter. Today, I will just be very brief. I can see we have already run into our time for this meeting. But this is just to thank you for continuing to keep the flag flying. I can see, of course, that we have a very rich presentation today, which we're looking forward to. It's a very good opportunity to encourage all of us to continue to support NAPE, continue to be active and, regular members to both our technical meetings, and also, quite importantly, to also be financially up to date, in terms of our dues payment and every other thing that, substantiates our membership. So on that note, I wouldn't have much to say at this time. I'm also eagerly looking forward to participating in today's technical meeting. The president, of course, is unavoidably absent today, but I'll definitely send your good wishes back to her. So once again, I thank you all for coming, and I wish us all a very successful discussion and deliberation today. Thank you very much. I'll hand over back to our coordinator.
Oh, thank you, sir. Mr. VP, I think that you'd have presented our chairman to us before we now take over, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, I missed that. All right, so for today's technical meeting, we have in the person of our chairman to chair this event today. We have Emeka Ejika, FNAPE, a senior geologist with Chevron, Nigeria, Mid-Africa region. Emeka, who is a good friend, had his first degree and a master's degree, as well as an MBA, with over 28 years industry experience. He was recently made the project manager of Chevron Nigeria Mid-Africa JV-funded reservoir studies. So he currently works as a senior geologist with the Deepwater Asset team, where he coordinates 4D seismic interpretation and analysis. He's previously worked in Nigeria and previously in Houston, Texas, as well as Covington, Louisiana. He's a member of NAPE, also AAPG, and the Houston Geological Society. He has also served as a previous General Secretary of NAPE. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome our chairman for today, Mr. Emeka Ejika, FNAPE. You are welcome, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma. And thank you, the Awka Owerri chapter coordinator. So I guess it's my turn to now introduce the speaker for today's technical and business meeting. But before I proceed, I would like to confirm that you can hear me very loud and clear. Can everybody hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you. Okay.
Okay, so let me quickly go over and take the recitation of Mr. Alexander Oshodi, very experienced scientist. I've taken time to look at his profile. He's a geologist with 18 years experience in the oil and gas industry. His area of specialty is in petroleum system analysis, seismic interpretation, subsurface evaluation, and geological modeling for hydrocarbon exploration and exploitation. Presently, Mr. Oshodi is a senior geoscience manager, technical and business ventures for Juvicle Energy Resources Limited. He has worked in frontier and mature basins around the world on regional and field scale projects. He has led or been part of multiple integrated subsurface research, exploration and development projects across basins in the West African Transform Margin. That includes Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Benin, Equatorial Guinea, and Orange Basin of Namibia. He's worked also in East Africa, as well as UK North Sea and continental shelf Norwegian, Barents and Ocean basins. Alexander obtained his first degree in applied geology from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, and he has a master's in petroleum geochemistry from the University of Newcastle. So in his spare time, Alexander mentors young geoscientists. He also provides a platform where he takes some young Nigerians in cricket. This is we're looking at teenagers around Lagos schools and in some universities as well. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest speaker for the Awka Owerri chapter March Technical and Business Meeting, Mr. Alexander Oshodi. Please, a round of applause for him. So let's, I believe you all can still hear me. I think the Secretariat is having problems projecting the slides. But Mr. Oshodi, please, the floor is yours. You can proceed with the presentation. The only thing I would like to add is because of time constraint, I will urge us to hold our questions until after his presentation. After his presentation, I will come back and coordinate the question and answer sessions. So thank you again, and please let's relax and enjoy this presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir, for the introduction, and thank you, NAPE Awka Owerri chapter, for giving me this opportunity to share some insights on the work that has been done on the prospectivity within the Anambra Basin. Can everybody confirm they can hear me, please?
We can hear you.
Okay, are you seeing my screen, sirs and
yes.
madams?
Yes, okay. we can hear you and we can see your screen. Just proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will be taking us through the hydrocarbon prospectivity of the Anambra Basin, 1D, 2D, and 3D petroleum systems modeling insights, and the prospectivity of the basin. This will be the outline for the presentation. We'll be looking at the introduction, the objectives. We'll look at the geological framework of the Anambra Basin, We'll look at the basin modeling methodology, some of the key findings, then some of the conclusions and recommendations we made as regards the basin and its prospectivity and future exploration opportunities. Then also we'll be taking question and answers after the presentation. Oh, sorry. So basic overview of the Anambra Basin. It covers about 60,000 square kilometers. It's one of Nigeria's significant petroliferous inland sedimentary basins. Its regional stratigraphic position places its base as overlying the angular nonconformity of the southern Benue Trough and partly above the nonconformity of the crystalline basement at its western margin. Its prospectivity is indicated via SEEPs, gas shows, and outright discoveries within the basin by IOCs during earliest exploration activities in Nigeria. This presentation evaluates the basin's petroleum systems using 1D and 3D modeling to assess hydrocarbon potential, focusing on source rock maturity, migration pathways, and potential trapping structures we have within the subsurface there. We'll look at the problem statement. This basin, despite its proximity to the prolific Niger Delta, remains underexplored with significant uncertainty about its hydrocarbon potential due to limited exploration efforts and data. Sparse well data, limited seismic coverage, and a complex tectonic history from the Santonian orogeny hinder accurate assessment of source rock maturity, hydrocarbon generation, and migration, making it difficult to predict where hydrocarbons might accumulate. To assess and unlock the basin's full potential, advanced basin modeling techniques are needed to improve subsurface understanding and reduce exploration risk for future investments, and also help target future exploration campaigns within the basin. So our study objectives, we are trying to evaluate the hydrocarbon potential of the Anambra Basin through the application of 1D, 2D, and 3D basin modeling. This will, we hope, will reduce geological uncertainties and identify key exploration targets. What we intend to do is look at the structural and stratigraphic framework, look at source rock characterization, heat flow and thermal histories through the basin, hydrocarbon generation and expulsion, migration trapping, and seal integrity within the basin. And all that information is based on the data available for this study, which we integrated. And I would like to say that this was a very, very large coalition of people in academia and industry with very limited data, but the integration of all that data could not have been possible without a lot of inputs from those in academia. So kudos to a lot of the lecturers, professors, and legends who worked on this project for us, and also NMPC giving us the opportunity to integrate this data and bring this story forward. So we're looking at the tectonostratigraphic evolution of the basin during the Aptian-Cenomanian tectonic stretching in the Anambra platform and Benue Trough caused deltaic river and marine deposits alongside volcanic activity, structural shifts, and folding in the Benue Trough. So we had the compressional event, which caused the shift of the depot centers to the Anambra Basin from the central Benue Trough. During the Turonian to Santonian, you had a major sea level rise linked to the South Atlantic, which linked the South Atlantic to Tethys, the Tethys Sea via the Benue Trough, allowing the deposition of the Eziaku, Ogu, and limestones formed in the basin center, while sandstones like the Amasiri, Agbani, and Makodi were deposited in the lower Benue. So we have a map of the gross depositional environments at this time as well. And as you can see, around the Anambra Basin, we are dealing with shallow marine to carbonate deposition within the Turonian to Santonian. Then we now had a major tectonic event in the Campanian to Maastrichtian This ended deposition in the Central Basin, shifting it westwards to form the Anambra Basin, while the Afikpo syncline developed in the east. Erosion in the Abakaliki area removed about 3,000 meters of sediment, exposing Albian layers and creating an angular unconformity with underlying formations. Then the Abakaliki uplift supplied sediment for the early Niger Delta, forming the Owerri, Afikpo, and Otobi sandstones. This continued into the Maastrichtian with coals from the Mamu Formation, while the Enugu and Uporo shales represent deeper water deposits. Then in the Paleocene, in the early Paleocene, rising sea levels deposited the Imo Shale and the Umuna sands in the eastern Anambra Basin, forming deep marine shales extending into the Atlantic. This is the equivalent of what we would call the Akata Formation, the Prodelta shales of the Akata Formation presently. As sea levels fell, Nanka sands formed in the Anambra Basin and the Bende and Ameki stones in the Afikpo Basin, corresponding to the Agbada Formation in the Niger Delta. This initiated the progressional development of the tertiary Niger Delta since the Eocene. One of the things that we have seen is structurally, the Anambra Basin is linked to the Benue Trough and exhibits significant tectonic deformation associated with the Santonian orogeny. This deformation created sub-basins and associated faults which provide potential hydrocarbon generation, accumulation, and trapping. So we can see this Aeromag interpretation of the data sets, which shows the three sub-basins within the Anambra Basin, the Lafia, the Ankpa, and the Onitsha sub-basins. It's important to note that this is, what I'm presenting is just one aspect, the total integration of all the data that went into this study. This study went from the interpretation of Aeromag and gravity data, regional stratigraphic analysis and desktop studies, integrating desktop studies, well logs, outcrop information to create a model for what the subsurface of the Anambra Basin is. That's including the available seismic data that we had, which was very limited as well, and as I'll show as we go along. So the basin stratigraphy includes key formations such as the Pre-Santonian deposits. We believe the Asu River group, which is of Aptian age, the Eziaku, the Ogu Shale, and those are the Pre-Santonian deposits, and the Post-Santonian deposits are the Umporo group, the Mamu Formation, the Ajali Sandstone, and the Unsuka Formation. And as you can see, this is a geologic map of the Anambra Basin, which you can see here. And you can see this is the Abakaliki anticlinorium to the east of it. And as you can see, the ages of the sediments are progressively getting younger as you come towards the south, with older deposits being exposed on the surface. And this was important as well as regards understanding the petroleum systems, because we had to look at, ensure that we had a model that mimicked or gave a good representation of what the geology is on the surface, and in that way we are likely to do better. With the integration of the well data, we get a proper picture of what's going on in the subsurface as well. So this is one of the, what we did was we integrated well data, Aeromag, gravity. When you're carrying out regional basin evaluations, one of the things you want to do is understand what your depth basement is, looking at the structural configurations of the basements and how they will affect your deposits within the basin. And as you can see, we have the basement complex, which has been interpreted from regional Aeromag and gravity data. We have different layers, which we also interpreted, the Asu River group, the Eziaku, the Ogu. Then for the Umporo all the way up, we integrated that with available well data on the area. So a lot of well data was also integrated to give a proper understanding of the subsurface that we have within the Anambra Basin and the distribution of these lithologies and formations within the basin. Our methodology, as we focused on understanding what the thermal histories were within the basin. So We had information from wells, looked at the vitrinite reflectance data, bottom hole temperatures, and tried to calibrate and integrate them into the model. Then we also looked at the basin evolution. That way we were able to constrain the heat flow data, reconstruct the thermal history, and determine when the source rocks entered the oil and gas windows. For the basin modeling exercise, we integrated geochemistry, biostratigraphy, petrography, and sedimentology from wells, petrophysics. Then we also integrated the available seismic data, sparse 2D seismic data, and magnetic and gravity data that we had. And with that, we're able to build the, have a 3D perspective of the basin. The 3D modeling approach that was used was we're trying to simulate hydrocarbon generation, expulsion, and migration across the basin. With all the information that we integrated, geochemistry, biostratigraphy, petrography, sedimentology, and all the available data into the model, we're looking at building gross depositional environments for each stratigraphy, looking at sand distributions, looking at source rock distributions as well. And with that information, we are trying to look at the maturation. We're trying to establish maturation across the basin for the source rocks that we believe are present in the basin, and look at how the maturation varies from sub-basin to sub-basin and the impact it has on the overall petroleum system. This is a typical methodology that you would use if you have all the available data, but basically, the bottom line is what we did was we integrated available well data, the available seismic data, and also the gravity data that was there. And we built, with all the information that we had, well data was quite okay. Seismic was very limited. Gravity data was also very good to look at the regional perspective. But with the information we had from the well data, we were able to build a good burial history model. With the burial history model being built in 1D, we're able to properly integrate it and now take that information and build a 3D basin model. And with that information, after simulation of the 3D basin model, we're able to look at how hydrocarbon has been expelled, migration and accumulation, and we're looking at source rock maturation, and we developed a petroleum systems event chart for the basin as well. One of the reasons the gravity and aeromag is quite important is once we know what the depth to basement is, we're able to establish sediment package thickness across all the basins. And with that way, we can properly understand prospectivity. So when we look at the combined sediment package thickness, we see in the Lafia sub-basin, it's about 12,700 feet. In the Anambra sub-basin, it's 13,700 feet. In the Onitsha sub-basin, it's 28,700 feet. And in the Afiko sub-basin, which is east of the Onitsha sub-basin, we have about 11,500 feet of sediment thickness within the basin. And this also helps us to understand where we have potential kitchens within the area. And it also helps us properly situate where we are going to look to carry out our 1D modeling first before we now start going into the 3D. So as you can see, these are all the sub-basins that have been identified within the Anambra sub-basin here. One of the things we also did was for us to be able to, we have the sediment package thicknesses, but we also have to look at what the layering is like. So one of the first things we did was interpret the seismic in time, convert it to depth. We did identify structures in time. We identified them as potential leads, very limited seismic data. Then we did the depth conversions, and we can see that our structures are, these structures are conforming or are similar to what we have in the time maps. This was carried out for various stratigraphic units that we could identify or correlate to wells across the entire basin. So that way we're able to properly subdivide the lithostratigraphy within the subsurface using that. And with that, we had a base with which we could start with and continue to take that to other parts of the basin. And we'll show that as we go along. One of the things we also did was we had seismic data, but we had to do a conceptual extrapolation of depth surfaces within the study area. And what we did was we used outcrop data and available legacy well data within the area. So these are the outcrop points that we had that were able to correlate across onto seismic using the deep strike values as well. So that information, the team that carried this out, the geoscientists that carried this out, did a very great job in properly integrating the information from the outcrop data and the well data to give us a proper understanding of the geology on the surface and extrapolating that into the subsurface and integrating that with the seismic data across the basin. That's the study area again. And you can see the well data that was used in the study relative to the outcrop data. So you see we have more outcrop points, but we also have well data that we could also try as much as possible to calibrate these two. Then you can see the limits of our seismic. So a lot of the subsurface information we had was within this area here, but you had this whole seismic is about 6,500 square kilometers, and we have a 60,000 square kilometer area. So a lot of the outcrop information, which was provided by those in academia and from research projects that have been carried out by students and PhDs in the past, was used to help with this modeling process and have a proper understanding of the basin. With that information, we're able to calibrate the outcrop data to the wells, to the seismic, and to the aeromag and gravity the best way we could. And as you can see, this is a line of section that runs from the Anambra sub-basin into the Onitsha sub-basin with the wells that were intersected along. And as you can see, we're able to establish that now from this point downwards, a lot of this information was gotten using by the geophysicists who carried out the aeromag interpretations, properly subdivide lithologies based on their density variations from the aeromag and gravity data. And that was how we're able to integrate and properly understand the subsurface with the basin based on the information we had. And we believe that this is a good representation, at least based on the data, limited data that we have of the basin. This is a north-south, apologies, sorry, cross-section of the basin. And as we can see, we have the limits of our seismic interpretations. This is the limit of extrapolation, but we do know that based on outcrop information, this is what we see on the surface as we go from the Onitsha sub-basin to the Lafia sub-basin. So this is representation of the cross-section north-south of what the geology within the subsurface in the Anambra Basin is, with limited seismic, integrating limited seismic well data, outcrop data, and surface geology. Sorry. So the generalized workflow that we did with the data available, looked at the geochemical data, kerogen type. Sorry, are you still hearing me? Hello?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you.
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, because I was feeling very lonely here just now. Sorry.
No, we can hear you.
No, we are with you, sir.
When the talk, just continue, please.
Yes, so with the geochemical data, kerogen type, with geochemical data, we're able to establish the kerogen type, organic richness, and the generation potential of the source rocks within the basin. We're able to use, as I described in the previous slides, understand the geometry and stratigraphy. So we use depth maps, fault geometry, well logs, data, seismic, outcrop information. Then boundary conditions, we are trying to understand the heat flow, surface temperature, sediment water temperature, and the paleo-water depths within the basin, which we will show through the entire modeling process. Then we're looking at timing of deposition, tectonic events, and compaction. Now, all this information will now go into the basin model. And what we'll now have is we'll be able to have the outputs which are burial history and a thermal model, petroleum, which will help us understand petroleum generation, migration, accumulation. We can see accumulation plots, migration plots, maturity plots, and understand the transformation ratio of the source rocks through the entire basin. So all this information from all the different teams that worked on this data is integrated to build this model. And the whole idea is, as I said, the data is limited, but with the data available, do we have a representation? The model may not be true to, how will I put it? A model is only as good as the data that you have. So based on the limited data that we have, we're able to have a proper understanding. We believe we're going to have a better understanding of the petroleum systems and the hydrocarbon prospectivity within this basin, and it will also help future exploration efforts within this basin and other Cretaceous basins, inland Cretaceous basins, and even the offshore Cretaceous basins in Nigeria. I believe that this methodology should be standardized as an approach going forward to properly understand most of the unexplored basins within Nigeria. So, integration of desktop data to the model building process. We had to look at regional geologic information, well data. We use that to properly constrain our model and achieve a near realistic model of the Anambra Basin and the evolution of the petroleum system through time. This information will allow us to establish the following, which will be taken into consideration during the model building process. We need to establish the expected sediment thickness within our study area from regional maps, the thickness and ages of the basin's lithostratigraphic units within our study area, the timing of rifting and the rift model to be used and applied in the basin model, which is very important because with the type of model that we apply, that will control the heat flows into the basin. Crustal lithologies expected within the study area have a major effect on the heat flows into the basin, which we can calibrate to available vitrinite reflectance models that have been made available for the same well. So with the crustal lithologies, we look at the geology around the Anambra Basin, and it's predominantly younger Pan-African granites to migmatite gneiss quartzite complexes. So we know what the basement of Nigeria is like, and that helps us constrain that. And because of the properties of the basement, that controls the heat flow from the lithosphere and from the mantle through the lithosphere and through the crust into the basin. So that's very important to know as well. We also need to understand what the pre-rift thickness of the basin is. And we assume the pre-rift thickness of 115,000 feet, and crustal lithology used was granitic. As I said, taking all previous orogenic activities in the area into consideration and the subsequent emplacement of the granites in the basement complexes flanking the basins, which are older than the basin itself. Then we are able to properly model the paleo-water depths using the information from regional geology and biostrat data. Every basin has a paleo-water depth history, which acts as the control for the surface temperatures and hence the thermal gradient through the basin. So if you don't model your basin's paleo-water depth properly, then you would have issues as regards your heat flows and your thermal histories. And the results of that can affect whether your source rock will become over mature or immature through geologic time. So it could cause a situation where you will be overestimating the potential of the basin. So being able to constrain that is quite important as well. So the 3D modeling data input that we had 9 depth maps which were created from all the information, seismic interpretation projects. We had base horizon maps were created for the surfaces in the model. A surface layer was created using surface elevations from well data and Google Earth. So the top of your model you have to have the top and the base of your model. So the base of our model is from the aeromag and gravity, but the top of the model was created using elevation data points from Google Earth and the well data that we had. There's a depth to basement was created by interpreting the regional magnetic data. Then ages were assigned using regional geology information and biostratigraphic ages provided in reports. Then petroleum systems elements were assigned to layers created from the maps based on regional geologic information, geochemical reports, and results from petrophysical evaluations, which were carried out in the course of the project. So this is the model building, petroleum systems model building workflow, which we carried out. Because we are starting with, we had maps. So what we did was we input the maps, we carry out fault modeling and grading of these maps, we QC and smoothing the maps. We now carry out layer creation and fascies definition. That's where we'll now start assigning fascies and layers or sub-layers within each of the stratigraphic units that we've identified. Once we have done that, we now go into the 1D modeling side where we extract 1D pseudo wells. So we have points that we extract the 1D pseudo wells from to identify kitchen areas or structural heights. But in this case, we're going for kitchen areas. That's 1D model, the extracted 1D models are inputted into the 1D modeling software. We QC and review these 1D models and look at their burial history. From there, we now carry out boundary condition settings and QCs. We now simulate the model and we look at the results from the 1D modeling, which will be the basis for our 3D modeling going forward. Once we are satisfied with the 1D modeling outputs, we take that into the 3D model and now put that in the 3D model and use that to create paleogeometry and trends for the 3D model. Then we now carry out property modeling, model these properties across this paleogeometry and trends. We model it across the 3D model. We assign them. We now define the petrocharge layer, and we now carry out run control simulation and sensitivity analysis for the model. And basically, we'll now start looking at outputs of the models from there. So this is just the layer creation from the conceptual extrapolation of depth surfaces. So as you can see, but let me boast for the team. Basically, this is the surface geology you are seeing on this model. Is it not similar to the surface geology that we saw in the beginning of this slide? So the representation of the Anambra Basin based on surface geology and based on what we see is captured here in this model, and we believe that with the limited data that we have of the subsurface, we've also captured it to the best of our abilities, integrating all the data. So we're able to create the layers, assign lithologies to them, which ones are sand dominated, which ones are shale dominated, but we also refined these maps as we went along and created gross depositional maps for each particular layer, showing where we expect sand distribution to be high, where we expect sand occurrence to be high, and maybe shales. And all that information by the sedimentology and stratigraphy team was very, very important as well to allow this project move forward and this model be built effectively. Then when we talk about fascies definition, so this is basically a distribution of what we call the Umporo group lithology distribution. But the fascies now that we're looking at is it source rock fascies? Do we have source rock fascies within it, or is it rich source rock, lean source rock? So we can see the distribution of the Umporo here. We know it's a laterally extensive shale within the Anambra Basin and has very, very good source rock properties. But as we move towards the north, we expect that the source rock properties will not be as high. So we can see here now that we have shale organic rich, 3% TOC. We also have sealed stone, which is in the northern section. Then we have some stringers of sand, which we know do occur, but this is a gross thickness, but there are subdivisions and sublayers within this Umporo group, which we put in the model. And as you can see, the fascies that were created, each layer was assigned lithologies. These fasces and the maps were created from this. The petroleum systems elements were assigned to the fasces, and lithology values were given based on regional geology for specific reservoirs and formations. So we took every little piece of information that we could take or we had, and we put that into consideration while building this model. So now we're looking at the results and discussions. So 4 1D models were extracted to capture the variations in tectonic history across the 3 sub-basins, the Onitsha, Ankpa, and Lafia. Control selection areas for the model. These subsidence curves, stretching factors, and paleo-water depths were unique to each sub-basin. So we did that to ensure that we didn't have one model that represented the entire basin. We had a model that captured the evolution of the basin through time in each sub-basin based on lithostratigraphy and based on all the information that we had. Pseudo wells were extracted and calibrated with measured VR from wells that were present within the basins to properly constrain the geothermal history. Boundary conditions, paleo-water depths, and sediment water interface temperatures were used to define and control basic thermal energy conditions affecting source rock maturation. The basin currently is located onshore, and it's a precursor to the prograding Niger Delta. Paleo-water depths were modeled to reflect the basin's evolution. Well info indicates reduction in water depth characterized by a change from marine to continental environments, which we saw in a lot of the well data that we had, and outcrop data. Then sediment water interface served as the upper boundary conditions for heat transfer within the basin, functioning as a product of the paleo-water depth and aiding in constraining the geothermal gradients through geologic time. So this is the map of the area, and these are the pseudo wells that were extracted. This is the result of our modeling. We're able to properly look at the tectonic history. So our model tectonic history is matching the tectonic subsidence, which is the pink line and the black line. And the effect of this is we are seeing that we had a rifting episode and we have a post-rift episode, which goes all the way down here. Now, we now look at the paleo-water depths. We see paleo-water depths increasing through time into the lower Cretaceous. Then it starts to rise. Then at almost the Cretaceous tertiary boundary, you have the water depths going above 0. So you have very shallow to continental environments. Then you now have this increase in water depth again, which permits the deposition of the Imo shale. So we're able to capture that in the model as well. And as you can see the heat flow through time and the sediment water interface temperatures through time in the basin. And all this information is from all the data that was put together and integrating that into the model to properly understand the geologic history of the basin and its tectonic history as well. That way we're able to properly say, okay, this is good for source rock maturity, or this is good for the source rocks within the basin. Now, one of the things we also integrated was the Statoil golden zones concept, and this is a graphical summary of it. This is important, especially when you are dealing in frontier basins. Basically, what it tells us is that because we are modeling thermal histories, we're able to properly understand what the thermal history is, and we can look at what the subsurface temperatures are through the entire basin or through the lithologies within this entire basin. And the golden zones concept basically is a 60 to 120 degree isotherm, which we established from basin modeling. And this was carried out not just using basin modeling, but using well data available. The study was carried out using well data. And what they established was the accumulation zone for hydrocarbons. The ideal accumulation zones for hydrocarbons is between 60 degrees and 120 degrees centigrade. Why? Temperatures higher than 60 degrees, you have good caprock integrity. Temperatures lower than 120 degrees, you don't have rapid quartz alite developments, which you can see. And in most cases, you see that in most models. So you have a ramp up of overpressure as well. Then once you go above 120 degrees, you're dealing with lithostatic pressures, which are above 70% of, you're dealing with reservoir pressures, which are close to about 75% of lithostatic pressures, which will cause fracturing of your reservoirs if you drill. So those temperatures are considered the optimal accumulation zones for hydrocarbons. And it's been proven that 90% of the world's oil and gas resources occur in a zone bounded by the 60-degree and 120-degree isotherm. Not saying that there are no accumulations below, but the risk of drilling into those accumulations is much higher than looking for hydrocarbons within this isotherm. So we believe if we build a precise model of this basin and we establish the 60 to 120-degree isotherm within the Anambra Basin, the beauty about it is that based on the fact that we have very limited data, any future seismic campaigns, once you can establish this depth range, this temperature range and the equivalent depth range, it means that your seismic campaigns can be focused to properly image within those depth ranges, and you can see your structures and your stratigraphy better, so you can optimally acquire data within those depth ranges, which have been established from the basin modeling side of things. So one of the outputs, the output and calibration of measured data. So one of the things we looked at is establish, are we seeing what we expect in terms of the geology within the Anambra Basin? Yes. We have the stretching phase, which is the opening up of the basin, the Benue Trough. So, but you have very low sediment accumulation rates in these areas, which tally with the geology of the Anambra Basin. Then you have the post-strip thermal sag within the mid-Cretaceous to late Cretaceous. But at that point, you now start having high deposition of sediments. Then you now have the Cretaceous tertiary unconformity marine transgression, that's immoshale to recent. So you can see the geology is captured, and you can see those high sediment accumulation rates post Asu River, that's from Eziaku up to the Nkporo. You have very high sediment accumulation rates which tally with the geology of the basin as well. We also have maturity and temperature plots. Model temperatures at potential reservoirs show values within the golden zone. The measured vitrinite reflectance and model VR show a good match in modeled wells. We have no BHT values for the wells to calibrate present day temperatures. So that's the golden zone. This is for the Onitsha sub-basin. You can see it exists between 5,000 and about 12,000 feet. We also have this for the Lafia sub-basin, which is at about 4,000 or 3,800 feet to 12,000 feet. So that's the golden zone established based on 1D modeling. Then this is using the maturity data that we had. We can see these points, these asterisks here, and this is our model maturity, and we can see that we are trailing the data sets in both wells. So we had good calibration as regards the vitrinite reflectance, and that gives us confidence in our 1D modeling, and we can now take that to the 3D modeling space. With that information, we're able to establish expulsion of hydrocarbons from the different source rocks that were modeled within the basin. So we have hydrocarbon plays within the potential hydrocarbon plays within the upper Cretaceous and lower Cretaceous. Then we can see hydrocarbon generation from pre-Santonian source rocks began in the late Cretaceous, mainly in the Onitsha and Ankwa sub-basins, with minimal generation in the Lafia sub-basins. The Nkporo shale from the late Cretaceous contributes little to hydrocarbon expulsion and migration. So majority of the source rocks that we believe are responsible for the hydrocarbons present within the Anambra Basin, based on our 1D modeling study, show us that the Eziaku and the Asu River are quite active within the Onitsha sub-basins and the Anambra sub-basins. Now, these are generation plots, but when we look at it in terms of cumulative expulsion, we can see rises and spikes, and we see the Asu River within the Onitsha sub-basin going up to about 20 million tons per square kilometer, maxing out at that point, then dying down. And after that, you now have the Eziaku in the Onitsha sub-basin peaking just after that. So you have multiple hydrocarbon charge systems within the sub-basin. So you have the Asu River group contributing, you have the Eziaku shale as well contributing, and everything is going on between 100 million years ago and 60 million years ago. So overall, the hydrocarbon generation aligns to the observed maturity and transformation ratio values across the sub-basins, which we've seen from the 1D modeling. And that gives us the reason to say, okay, let's go see how this works within the 3D modeling space. And so, as I said earlier, the information from the 1D models were used to create the boundary conditions for the 3D models. The trend data for each model pseudo-well was then used to create trend maps for each location around the extraction points. Now, since the survey area is about 60,000 kilometers square, the wells and the trends generated for each sub-basin were used to populate the 3D models. So all that information goes into the 3D model, and now we have a cross-section through the Anambra Basin that you can see here, and we can see all the different sub-basins. We can establish the depth to the oil, top of the oil window, the base of the oil window, and the gas window. And as we can see in the Onitsha sub-basin, we are dealing with maturities within the gas windows. And this is your Asu River going all the way here. So the Asu River is over mature. The Eziaku is within the top gas window, and the Umporo is just within the early oil window to mid oil window in the southern parts of the Onitsha sub-basin. So the source rock layers were modeled for Cretaceous source rock layers present within the basin. The VRO values show the oil window occurs between 7,500 and 15,800 feet. Model Cretaceous shales associated with the Asu River group are well in the gas window, while the Eziaku and Ogu have late oil window to early gas window maturities from the 3D modeling that we carried out. And you can see that's the 3D model of the basin. Transformation ratios, the TR model indicates that the Asu River group source rocks in all the sub-basins have completely converted their organic content to hydrocarbons. Other source rocks have experienced varying degrees of transformation greater than or equals 60% across the sub-basin. So we can see that there's maturity across the entire basins. So the hydrocarbon trapping in the model sub-basin was limited by sparse subsurface data and the lack of fault interpretations due to the orientation of the 2D seismic lines and coverage across the sub-basins. Consequently, faults were excluded from the model, making fault-related traps difficult. So what we did was we used stratigraphy and changes in dip as the function of what we believe the 3D modeling accumulations will be. And this is a cross-sectional image of the different lithologies. And as you can see, the migrating vectors, these green are the oil migrating vectors and the reds are the gas migrating vectors. But one thing we can see is the plumbing generally is everything is coming out of the Onitsha sub-basin and moving north up into the Anambra sub-basin and into the Lafia sub-basin. And we can see these migration trends getting as far as north of Lafia. And this is consistent with some of the issues that we've had, I don't know, a few years ago in the east, where I think somewhere around, was it Unsuka or where a well was drilled, or Enugu, where a well was drilled and they hit gas and you had a blowout. So as you can see, you have some surface gas also migrating here within this area. So chances are that if those gases were tested, if they were thermogenic, this also confirms that you have a lot of hydrocarbons migrating. You could hit a pocket or some migrating hydrocarbons, and that could cause issues as well. So we have seismic section You can see that east-west, and we also have this information here as well with the migration vectors and lithologies varying through the model. So in the Onitsha sub-basin, trapping may be linked to growth faults, but this remains unconfirmed in Anambra and Lafia sub-basins. The 3D model focused on trapping mechanisms like folding, dip changes, and fascist variation using a hybrid migration model combining Darcy flow and flow path models. So we do know from the seismic that we have suitable trapping structure similar to what we have in the Niger Delta, which are the rollover faults and anticlines. But the coverage of the seismic data did not allow us model faults within this sub-basin, the Onitsha sub-basin, and also we have no data to put those same faults within the Lafia or in the Anambra or Lafia sub-basin. So as I said earlier, we used fascist variations and information on geology to constrain the models in terms of potential structures and reservoir distributions. So I spoke earlier about the golden zone, and with the 3D modeling, this is a 2D image, north-south as well. And we can see the areas of overpressure, the optimal areas for accumulation within the sub-basin, within the basin and the sub-basins. And you can see the variation in thickness of that golden zone across all the basins, implying that, the tectonic histories are not the same in terms of for each sub-basin. You have variations in tectonic history, and that has affected and sediment loading. But we can see that the optimal accumulation zones are generally between 5,000 and about 13,000 feet. So it's like an 8,000 foot window within the basin, and we can see the distribution. So what this means now is that once you want to carry out a 3D campaign or 2D campaign, you can optimize your seismic to image within this area so you can properly see potential structures or accumulations that are there. So that's the biodegradation risk zone. So additionally, the biodegradation risk zone lies at a depth, I've said that, sorry. So let me move to the next slide. So some of the outputs that we had also were the distribution of potential accumulations within the basin. And as you can see, there are hydrocarbon accumulations in the Onitsha sub-basin. There are potential hydrocarbon accumulation based on the model that we built within the Lafia sub-basin, and even some within the Anambra sub-basin. So we believe there is some long-distance migration either from the Onitsha sub-basin or Anambra sub-basin into the Lafia sub-basin. And you can see from these migration vectors that you have a lot of, and as I described earlier in the previous slide, the plumbing also tells us that based on the model, our plumbing, everything is going from deeper sections into the cellular section. So we have a distribution of hydrocarbons, potential leads based on the model. We're also able to look at the distribution of areas where you have limited biodegradation. So this is an accumulation. The blue area is zero biodegradation risk, and that's an accumulation that we looked at that has about 4.6 BCF of gas and 3.73 million barrels of oil present within it. That's just from the model. It's not factual, but it's just based on the modeling that we carried out. Then you can also look at the over areas where you have high temperature zones. So you have overpressure zones here. You have some overpressure zones here. These areas have high biodegradation risk. So some of the leads that we've identified have high biodegradation risk, which you can see in the green here, and you can also see in the white. So a lot of this is still quote unquote, I won't say circumspect, but it's unconfirmed because we have very limited data. But the model is telling us, is giving us direction as to how to go about exploration going forward. So so migration vectors for hydrocarbons expelled show that majority of hydrocarbons accumulated in the modeled reservoirs are migrating from the Onitsha sub-basin into suitable structures and lithologies in the Anambra as well as the Lafia sub-basins. The modeled accumulations are within the sand facies associated with the Ogu and Umporo groups, and some of them run the risk of biodegradation due to model temperatures in those layers being lower than 60 degrees. This is a overall petroleum systems event chart for the entire basin, taking into consideration all the sub-basins. We're looking at the risk that we've seen. The risk for accumulation that we've seen is seal timing relative to preservation of trapped hydrocarbons. And we can see the timing of generation and expulsion. We can see that Dumporo has minor generation and minor expulsion in the Onitsha sub-basin. So each sub-basin has been subdivided. Each petroleum system element has been identified for each sub-basin, and each event in the petroleum system's evolution has been captured as well. But we are looking at, from the middle of the Upper Cretaceous, we are looking at seal timing relative to preservation as being what is critical to accumulations being present within this basin. So based on everything I've said, we've created a 3D model to help reduce exploration risk and uncertainties within the basin. And we've identified two possible hydrocarbon plays, the pre-Santonian and post-Santonian plays. Preliminary results indicate hydrocarbon migration from the Onitsha sub-basin into the Anambra and Lafia sub-basins. The golden zone is defined as an 8,000-foot section within the subsurface, it varies across, but it's basically an 8,000-foot region within the subsurface. While post and pre-Santonian source kitchens provide sufficient hydrocarbons, trapping efficiency is low due to timing of hydrocarbon charge relative to reservoir and seal deposition. The reducing uncertainties in trapping mechanism requires additional 2D, 3D seismic data acquisition across the basin, reprocessing existing vintages and reinterpretation to improve understanding and visualization of geologic features across the entire basin. Further seismic surveys and well data could provide even more detailed insights, particularly in underexplored areas of the basin. I'd like to thank NNPC and NSERV and Juvicle for giving me this opportunity to present this work, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking your time out to listen to me today. And I hope this has been very insightful, and I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Oshodi. A round of applause for him, please. Let's give him a digital clap. Thank you. This is a very, very detailed study. I like the slides. I like how it was delivered. So without wasting your time, I will quickly go through some of the notes I've taken. Like I said, there's a very detailed presentation. A lot of efforts went into this study. So I kind of took some notes, so let me quickly go through them. Of course, the speaker started by taking us through the overview of the Anambra Basin, which I thought was very, very good, just to set the stage for his presentation. Then he went further to state the problem. The question posed here is why is Anambra Basin still underexplored, considering the proximity of this basin to Niger Delta? And I think that's a question we all have to answer. And in his presentation, he made us to understand that it has to do with the sparse well data, the limited seismic coverage, and the complex tectonic history. So those are the things he feels that is making it difficult for us to predict where hydrocarbon might accumulate. So he went further to take us through his presentation, which is to offer solution to the problem already identified, and that he did very, very well. He took us through the regional geology, the technostratigraphic evolution of the basin, which is well detailed. And at the end of the day, he equally took his time to explain the methodology used to generate both the 1D modeling as well as the 3D basin modeling. The data he used for the modeling includes the geochemistry, biostratigraphy, petrography, sedimentology, petrophysics, and the seismic, magnetic, and gravity surveys. So this is a very detailed study, everything integrated to come up with a very reliable basin model. So having done that, he equally went further to give some specifics. I like the thicknesses he provided us with, the sub-basins, Elafia, Anambra, Onitsha, and Afibo. He gave us the maximum thicknesses seen from those from his studies. So then he proceeded to look at the generalized basin modeling workflow, where he used geochemical data, the geochemistry, he set boundary conditions, and the timing of deposition. Those are inputs into the basin modeling itself, providing outputs such as the burial history, as well as the thermal modeling, where we predict the thermal maturation of the basin. So those are really very, very important presentations, insight for me, because it's quite a long time I looked at Anambra Basin. So one thing that is clear to me is what he was able to achieve with his 1D hydrocarbon generation and expulsion profiles in the basin. He showed us the different contributions of these different sub-basins by walking us through the expulsion profiles from those sub-basins. And finally, he went through the migration and trapping. He equally stated upfront the lack of seismic, or rather the lack of false interpretation. So if you don't have faults, of course, we know how that will impact your migration vectors of hydrocarbon. So he stated that and presented his results. So to me, it's a very important and well-detailed presentation. I wish we have enough time to take many questions, but we'll still open it up to see if we can take few questions before we proceed with the rest of the agenda topics. So thank you very much, Mr. Oshodi. Let me see if I have questions from the chat. Please drop your question, and if you want to speak, please indicate by raising your hand, and we will mute you to ask your question. This is question time. Thank you again, Mr. Oshodi, for that detailed presentation.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Chairman, I think Professor Wajide want to speak, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Please unmute me, please. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can hear you clearly, Prof.
Yeah, okay. If you're hearing me, I want to compliment Alex for the brilliant presentation. I feel particularly proud because the initial stages of the work, I was involved in it, along with Professor Okoro and one or two other sedimentologists, stratigraphers, and we are very happy to see how much they have taken the effort we added, how far it has gone, in eventually bringing out such a brilliant presentation for Juvicle, yes. The studies indicate that we are dealing with at least two basins. If we add the third one, it will be Niger Delta. But the Benue Trough is essentially the what's been indicated here is that the Benue Trough is essentially a very major source when we are discussing the fine sediments of the Benue Trough. So when we are thinking of layered basins or tiered basins of southern and even the northern parts of Nigeria, we should be indicating that virtually every bit should be taken into consideration, right from the non-conformity, which is the boundary between sediment and basement, where the basement itself is a major contributor in terms of heat flow. Then that is a major implication. One thing we must take away from this study, that we cannot do enough if we just have one basin concentrated upon. We have to look at a holistic way of integrating from all the basins involved. That's one thing we can take away. Another thing we can take away is where I think Alex has been a bit shy. Recommendation. And I would ask Alex, what will you recommend, especially in terms of studies? What of 3D? Because everything you have used is 1D, 2D, and all the rest of derivative data. Nothing about, you haven't said anything about what 3D can add to the brilliant model you have created. Do we expect more from 3D? Thank you very much.
So,
thank you. Thank you. So, go ahead and respond, please.
Okay, sorry for Prof. Good to hear your voice again, sir.
Thank you, Emeka.
So, as regards the 3D, we've created a 3D model. Yes, we've shown a 3D model that
seismic 3D seismic.
3D seismic.
Yes.
I want to know what you think is required. What remains? What can we get from 3D if we ever shoot it?
So that's the thing. So the way we look at it, because it's an exploration workflow we have to follow. We've integrated as much regional information as we can get and limited 2D seismic lines. But we have to understand that the only places where we have seismic coverage in these basins or in the sub-basins are in the Onitsha sub-basin. And based on what you have just said, you're asking us to do a more regional integration of the data from the Anambra Basin, the Benue Trough, all of them, because definitely their evolutions are tied. The evolutions are tied across. So for me, I would look at it that if we have sparse 2D data that can connect all three sub-basins for now, and maybe even if we can connect the Southern Benue Trough in that sparse 2D campaign, then we'll have a more regional evaluation of what we are looking at. Because I think if we go and shoot 3D will be very expensive, but it will be very, very focused. So we won't have a regional perspective. So I think we need to have very good 2D regional lines, sparse 2D regional lines across the basin that give us some understanding of the basin. Either we are guiding the 2D acquisition based on what we see in terms of the aeromag and gravity, so we can properly image up to the basement in all these areas and image the lithologies through, and also be able to tie those 2D lines to wells that are available within those basins as well. And from there, we can now look at, okay, how do we narrow down exploration? Because if we go and start shooting 3D, to be honest with you, if we shoot the 3D in the Ankpa sub-basin, we are shooting blind. We can shoot, I think there are 3D volumes that are present, but belonging to companies, mainly in the Anambra Basin. But if we want to look at the Ankpa Basin and the Lafia sub-basin and maybe even carry it into the Southern Benue Trough, I think we need 2D regional lines. We can put those 2D lines and grids together and create some form of a model, and that will help us have a more focused 3D, similar to what happened with the success in Kolomani in the past years. So I think that's what we should do. We should integrate the 2D lines first, get some 2D lines in there before we now start looking at focused 3D.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Expense mainly is the constraint. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question, sir. So let's go to Mutari Lawal. Mutari, you want to unmute yourself and speak? Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, the presenter. It was a very, very exciting listening to a detailed presentation. I just want to contribute this way by, saying that dealing with data poor basins always come with great challenges. So, such as in your case. So we have studied in basins such as Sokoto Basin, where we also face similar challenges, even worse cases where there is no sufficient data to work with. So since these are contemporaneous with the Anambra Basin, please, can you share your thoughts on what you think were the main drivers of maturation of potential source rocks within the sequence you studied, and how they are distributed, hoping that maybe we can borrow a lead to understand the other data poor basins. Thank you.
Hello. So you are asking, sir, just to confirm that what are the key drivers for maturation of source rocks within the Anambra Basin?
Yes, sir. Within the sequences studied.
Yeah. So there's I don't know, maybe I'll come back to Awka to come and present this one, because there's a similar study that I did many years ago with a friend of mine who I'm seeing for the first time. I'm seeing his name and I'm talking to him for the first time in maybe 10 years since we did that study together on the Southern Benue Trough. One of the major controls in the inland sedimentary basins is basically sediment loading. Apart from the basement composition, which is key in terms of what lithologies we use, if we had a basement that was predominantly basaltic in nature, then we know that the mineral compositions of the rocks in basalt are a part of the OPAB group, olivine pyroxene amphibole biotite. They are high temperature minerals, so their ability to transmit heat, you need a lot more energy to change their temperature by 1 degree. And the luck we have with the inland sedimentary basins, especially around the Anambra Basin, going all the way to the Benue Trough and the Gongola Basin, is that we have Precambrian basement rocks as the underlying basement lithology. And that underlying basement lithology, which are Precambrian basement rocks, are predominantly granites. So not only can they transmit based on the mineral composition of the rocks to transmit heat from the mantle and the core, they also have their own internal abilities to generate heat based on the radioactive minerals present within them. So granites above a particular age have, or below a particular age, have very high radioactive minerals present with them, and the half-lives have not been properly, or they've not gone through their half-lives in terms of radioactivity, so they are still generating heat. So combine that with sediment loading. So the higher your sediment accumulation rates come in, and the higher your sediment accumulation rates, your basement lithology, your rifting episode, post-drift, all that is responsible for that. So within for like the Southern Benue Trough, the study we did in the Southern Benue Trough, one of the things that killed off the source rocks from generating more hydrocarbons was the Santonian uplift and erosion. So you had a spike from the Asu River Group and Ezeaku in hydrocarbon expulsion and generation. Then the minute you changed the basins, you inverted the basin, you just had a drop. And it's the same thing we are seeing with the Anambra Basin. In this case, the drop in source rock source rock expulsion is also tied to the size, the thicknesses, because we try to be as pessimistic as possible as regards, we didn't want to give it too rich source rocks and we didn't want to make it too thick. So it's establishing what the thickness and the richness of those source rocks are regionally that is important. But we also see that the peak in source rocks expulsion and generation is tied to sediment loading, high sediment accumulation rates as well. So that's very key here.
Okay, thanks. So we have one more hand. We can take Basin. Please make it brief. Hello, can you hear me, please? Okay, so while we wait for her to ask a question, I have just two questions. The first one is I didn't hear much about how you relied on outcrop to get data for your Basin modeling. I mean, we have Lopanta, we have other outcrops, but I didn't know whether information from those outcrops were integrated into your model. And the second, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second one is again back to Professor Mwajide's question. I guess the reason why you didn't have faults as input into your model is because obviously you don't have 3D seismic coverage. So if you don't have faults as input, how reliable would your migration vectors be? I know you showed us some of the accumulation. So how do you want us to rely on such information if faults are completely missing from the model? So those are my two questions. And if you can make it brief, that would be good because we're out of time.
Yeah, please, Professor Ozumba has been raising up his hand for a while.
Professor Ozumba too.
I didn't see him, sir. I didn't see that, sir. So we'll come back to you, sir, if you don't mind. Sorry.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yes, sir. So as regards the outcrop information, a lot of the outcrop information was our ability to tie the outcrops to the subsurface well data based on their deep and strike measurements. Because as I said, if we want to create a 3D model of the entire basin, we have a basement map which is regional. We have a basement map from aeromag and gravity, which is regional. So we have that information. We have a surface map, which shows us outcropping data as well. And from studies that were carried out by those in academia, we have deep and strike measurements, but we also have some sparse well data as well. So being able to tie the outcrop, so these are the outcrop informations that we had to limit the stratigraphies as we're going. Being able to tie those outcrop information to the well data, to the seismic, and also to the subdivisions of the different lithological layers that were identified during the aeromag and gravity. That's why I'm a messenger. Somebody was saying it was a great job by me, but no, the number of people that did this work is exceptional, and the amount of work that they put into it. I'm just the guy that came and put everything together, but it was a great job by the team, and it was a lot of hours spent in conversations and looking at reports and trying to review and trying to recreate what we believe is the geology of the Anambra Basin based on the data that we have, And so we did look at all the available outcrop data, and all this information that we have in terms of outcrop data, we got from academia. And as you can see, we had outcrop coverage for the Mamu Formation, outcrop coverage for the Ajali Formation, contact point between Unsuka and Ajali was identified, outcrop coverage Unsuka Formation, contact points between Ajali and Mamu Formation. All those were carried out by a lot of the professors and doctors and academics that worked on this project with us in industry. So all that information was put in there. Now, as regards the migration, for each lithology, a gross depositional environment map was created. So you could have structural controls for hydrocarbons, or you could have stratigraphy. So we limited reservoir distributions to places where we knew we had a proper understanding of the gross depositional environments for those particular reservoir lithophases that we had, combined with the information we had from well logs, because we also had well logs to also show us Ajali, Mamu, and Umporo. And if you remember, when I said a lot of the accumulations that we're getting were within the Umporo, the Mamu as well. So all the Ogu and Umporo, sorry. So we used all the information available to us because we didn't have regional faults to be able to have a proper understanding. Our fault coverage, as you can see from this map, this is the map of the entire seismic. This is all the fault coverage we have. So they have more regional understanding of the fault pattern. So that's why we try to use stratigraphy and the regional, based on what we believe was the regional gross depositional environments to limit the distribution of reservoirs. So that way, so we try to make it as pessimistic as possible. It's not like if we just put reservoirs everywhere. We try to make it as pessimistic as possible.
Okay.
And using the information from all the geology. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's quickly go to Professor Uzumba, then that will be the end of the question and answer session. Sir, go ahead, sir. You're still mute. Please unmute yourself, sir. So you're still...
Hello, are you hearing me now?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I've been struggling with my system here. I don't know what is wrong. Thank you very much for the very brilliant presentation and the study, which I think is the most integrated study I've seen so far in Anambra Basin. However, a few suggestions. I don't think there are questions. The most important thing now that you've done this geochemical study is actually because you were talking about I saw some areas where you called leaks or something. If you are now asked which area can we get 3D or can we acquire 3D, knowing that it's very expensive and so on, will this study or has this study been able to say, I have this 20 square kilometers of seismic that I think if you take, then it may make sense? That is one. Two, the study, probably because of the input of the academics, is not been able to reduce the risk that we have known for a very long time in the Anambra Basin. Even with the quotation or the quantification of your volumes, you are talking about 3.73 million barrels in one of your horizons that you model than 4 trillion. Those are very, very small compared to what happens in the Niger Delta. Are there, do you have better results that will actually propel people to be more interested? Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Alexander, please.
So one of the things we raised, so the only reason I raised that that's 3.7 billion barrels, 3.7 million barrels was just to highlight an accumulation that was it's one of the smallest accumulations that we got there. But based on what we are seeing as regards our study, our problem statements that we spoke about in the beginning was limited data for a basin that we know has hydrocarbons. Now, with the information that we have, we cannot, in the Lafayette sub-basin, for instance, we don't even have 2D lines. In the Ankpa sub-basin, we don't have 2D lines. Within the Onitsha sub-basin, we have multiple fields that are producing hydrocarbons within the Onitsha sub-basin, and we also have potential, a very, very sparse 2D coverage. So the limitations of data are, we are trying to suggest going forward with the exploration. Can the exploration be targeted? Yes. Can we look at, do we have prospectivity Yes. Do we have hydrocarbon charge? Yes, we have hydrocarbon charge based on our modeling, based on what we know of the geology of the area. We are looking at potential accumulations in areas where we don't have any subsurface data based on what we are using as surface geology and what we know from the gross depositional environment. So we are not establishing that there are hydrocarbons there. We are showing that with limited data, we are showing that there's potential for charge. We are showing migration, we are showing accumulation, but we need more subsurface data to look at what the structures are below. What kind of fault patterns? Are we dealing with stratigraphic plays? Are we dealing with structural plays? Are we dealing with plays similar to what we have? And we can't look at this if we don't have regional 2D lines to even understand what the basin is saying. What we have now that we can confirm we have is a basement map based on interpretation of the geophysics from aeromag and gravity. As regards the spatial distribution of sediments within the basin, everything is conjecture or based on the research and the information we have from outcrop data and what we know about, the efforts that were put into the job by a lot of the regional geologists who looked at it. So the only way we can look at it is we need a 2D campaign across all the basins within the Anambra Basin for us to have a regional perspective and better understanding. Number two, the hydrocarbons that we are looking at within the Anambra Basin, we also believe are not sourced from within the Onitsha sub-basin. The hydrocarbons in the Onitsha sub-basin, we believe, are not sourced from within the Onitsha sub-basin. We believe, based on what we've seen, based on migration, we believe that those may be hydrocarbons that are migrating from the northern delta into the Onitsha sub-basin, and the Onitsha sub-basin is charging the Ankpa sub-basin. So all these are conclusions that we are deriving based on the limited data, but what we understand, what we have in terms of our regional understanding, and what we believe to be going on within that basin based on the data that we have.
Yeah, thank you, Alex.
Yeah. Let me for that. My comment is actually, because don't quote those small volumes, because you are demarketing the basin as a whole. We know that you have said all the things that will militate giving a more robust thing. It's better in this case to, if you want to give numbers that will be encouraging.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh no, the numbers below, in the image below, are over 200 million barrels. But I didn't want to say that so people will go and start saying we are going to drill there. That's the reason. The reason I'm trying to.
Yeah, but so for your market,
in this image below, this image below is over 200 million barrels. But I'm not going to put that out because for people to say there's 200 million barrels of oil. It's still a model. Do you get me? It's still a model. But yes, we believe it's prospective. And we believe a lot more work needs to be done to image the subsurface.
Chairman, can you allow the technical director to just make a comment of the Juvicle? Okay. At that claim, please.
Okay.
First, thank you so much, Alec and Prof. Thank you for the question. First is the study was a commercial study, and Alec will not be able to air out a lot of things that are confidential to NNPC and to the Nigerian government in this presentation. The focus is to, one, encourage the Exploration Society to see that we do more. There's a question ties also more to that. Anambra Basin, as big as it is, will benefit from more data. We are not focused in the presentation to say go and acquire data at this location or go and drill well at this location. And so we are, as much as possible, as we are scientists who focus to be professional, we want people to invest in the basin. And we think it will be unfortunate to start comparing the resources in Anambra Basin to the resources in Niger Delta. That would do a lot of under service to the Anambra Basin. The Anambra Basin has its own peculiarities in terms of the market it will serve if we'll have development opportunities that will come out of discoveries already made or to be made in future. And we also classify it as predominantly gas opportunity that also can spur our energy security in the country. So, Prof, we don't intend to be comparing Anambra Basin with Niger Delta. So the volume comparison will not apply. Of course, also, as scientists, we'll have to be cautious because if you're communicating to somebody you want to do investment, you need to be risking on his side to be cautious in putting his money. And Alec has done that in the amount of information he's putting out to encourage investment. And what we need to do as geoscientists, as explorers, is to continue to push both government and industry players to see that there are opportunities that we need to mature by acquiring data. And the more we integrate that data, the more we bring up the value of the basin. And that's when we can start talking about bigger unfound volumes supported by data.
Okay. Yeah, those were good comments. Thank you, sir, for putting
Thank you. Well done, Clem.
Okay, so let's, I think I can't see any hand raised. We've come to the end of question and answer. If you don't mind, please, another round of applause for our presenter, Mr. Alex. Over to you, the chairman, the Awka Owerri chapter coordinator.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, my chairman. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, everyone that have made a comment and that have contributed. We are so grateful. Thank you so much. Without wasting our time, we just want to do a quick presentation. This presentation will be done by the NAPE president, heavily represented by the vice president. Oga VP, are you still around? Or should we continue, sir?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay, all right.
Continue,
yeah,
sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much once again, our able chapter coordinator. Thank you to our chairman for the very wonderful coordination, as well as to our speaker, Mr. Alexander Oshodi. Thank you also very much for the very detailed and very elaborate presentation. It shows that a lot of work actually went into that. So I hope that some of our recommendations that has been discussed is something that we all look into both across the industry as well as in the academia. So having said that, it's now my job to present to you on behalf of the president of NAPE, Mrs. Olajumoke Ajayi FNAPE, to present to you the certificate of excellence, the award of excellence presented to Mr. Alexander Oshodi for your outstanding contribution as our guest speaker to the NAPE Awka Owerri chapter in our 2026 March technical meeting. So thank you very much. I present this certificate to you virtually, and as soon as possible, the physical copy will get across to you as long as with our other souvenirs. Thank you so very much for your presentation today, and we look forward to having you hopefully in our future gathering. I also want to present to our able chairman, who has done a very brilliant job of coordinating, my good friend, Mr. Emeka, Ejika, FNAPE, also presenting to you our award of excellence for your outstanding contribution as our chairman to the NAPE Awka Owerri chapter technical and business meeting for March 2026. Thank you very much, sir, for your coordination, and definitely a physical copy will get across to you along with our souvenirs for your very, very good coordination today. So thank you, both of you, for your good work. I would hand over at this point back to our chapter coordinator to just say the final closing formalities. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, the VP. Thank you so much. Thank you, my chairman. Thank you, our guest speaker, Alex. Thank you so much. You have done a great job. Without wasting time, let us go to the vote of thanks by our dear own President-elect, Dr. Antonio Former, FNAPE.
Yeah,
sir. Are you on call?
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
All right. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, rather. I want to seize the opportunity to thank the Owerri chapter for putting this together. In fact, when I looked at the participants, over 100 participants, showing the keen interest for this particular topic, hydrocarbon prospectivity in the Anambra Basin. Research and studies on, hydrocarbon prospectivity in the Anambra Basin is not a recent thing. It's been there for a very long time. And the good thing is that as information and facts emerges, it's good for us to look for platforms to air them out, show it to the world, and, for other persons to, pick up from wherever the research stopped and continue to do more research and all that. So I want to thank again the Owerri chapter for putting this together. I want to thank the presenter, Alex Oshodi. I want to thank Juvicle, the company behind this. They've been phenomenal. Juvicle is also going to handle something for the national level. So Juvicle has always been at the beck and call of NAPE, and I want to appreciate them immensely. They remain one of our best in terms of oil company relationship. I also want to thank those that were able to, turn in and listen to the presentation. Finding time to, this is a very crowded period of one's life, there's a lot of moving parts. You're doing this, you're doing that, and you still create out time to come and listen to these presentations. It's not easy. And I want to thank everybody who dialed in and logged on to listen to this presentation. On that note, I say thank you very much, and we expect more from Owerri because you break the trail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll not go straight to the announcement. And standing in for the announcement for the PE will be our dear own George Okeke. George, please, can you just do a quick announcement of NAPE from the national body, please? George.
All right, thank you. Thank you, our able Owerri coordinator. Thank you, everyone, for dialing into this call. So a quick one on our monthly technical/business meeting announcement. We also wish to thank Mr. Alexander Oshodi for making today's technical business meeting a very exciting one. In fact, we all know how prolific the Anambra Basin is and how prospective it is for we to take a look back into the basin and see what we can make out of it. So in our within the month of March, the Uyo/Calabar chapter will be having a technical business meeting on the 14th of March, which is on Saturday. And please kindly avail yourselves to listen to the share gas potentials of Eocene Shale of Agbada Formation, a paradigm shift in gas resources perception, a case study of the Niger Delta Basin. The NAPE Uyo/Calabar chapter executive are the ones sponsoring this business meeting, which will be virtual. Same on March. There will be a March special webinar on beyond salary, creating wealth that works without you. So the host will be our able NAPE president, Mrs. Olajumoke Cecilia Ajayi, FNAPE. The speaker will be Grace Mofore. So please kindly avail yourselves on this March webinar, which will come up on 17th of March, 2026. So same on March, there is a big one coming in on 18th of March. It will be at Eco Hotels, the Grand Ballroom Eco Hotels. The sponsor is Boca Company. So the topic will be from swamp to deep water, designing fit for people's site surveys across Nigeria's offshore blocks. Please, I will strongly advise you avail yourself for this. So on the 26th of March, 2026, the Abuja chapter will be availing us on the applied machine learning for seismic interpretation in oil and gas geoscience. So the speaker will be Bogodo Daniel, who is going to take us on this. So the host will be the Abuja chapter of NAPE. So on the 28th of Saturday, the North American chapter for their month of March business technical meeting. The topic will be on intelligent energy transition, AI applications across petroleum, carbon capture, and sustainability. It will be an interesting topic for we to look into the intelligence within the energy transition. So the mini chapter within the month of March, on 30th of March, will take us on beyond hydrocarbons, integrated subsurface evaluation of geothermal resources and lessons for sedimentary basin development in Nigeria. Osayame Julius will be the speaker on that day. Thank you, the NAPE Bini chapter. So the big event being the 44th NAPE International Conference, which will be coming up on November 8th to 12th, 2026. The theme will be unlocking more barrels, driving results growth through exploration, local capabilities, and adaptive technology. Please, it will be good to have both our able sponsors and our members to avail themselves on this NAPE conference. With that, I thank every one of us for listening. So we go into our fundraising drive for the purchase of a permanent NAPE secretariat. So for our fellows, we plead with you to contribute to the purchase of this our permanent NAPE secretariat with a minimum contribution of 250,000. Our active members, a minimum contribution of 150,000. Then our lecturers, a minimum contribution of 75,000. So the bank accounts will be made available to us via our monthly emails address. Emails that will be sent to us across all NAPE members. You can also get that the account number from our secretariat. So for inquiries, please contact Chidema Azoriwo. So for our monthly dues, please, we call on our members to kindly pay for their 2026 members due. Remember, our student membership due is still the 2,000 naira. Then active members, 12,000. Associate members, 12,000. Then corporate members, 50,000. We also plead on behalf of NAPE for all coordinators to seek other young members, like young professionals, our students, to join our association. So with this, we say a very big thank you to all those that dial into this business/technical presentation. we thank you for coming around. So thank you, the coordinator, Dr. Juvicle. Please, over to you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. For the closing remark, let's hand over to our dear Professor Leonard Onoba, who is our technical director. Prof, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, my able coordinator. This has been a very wonderful presentation. In fact, for this year, this is the best presentation I've had from NAPE. I must commend the presenter, okay, Alexander Oshodi. You did a very fantastic work, very thorough, very detailed. And I believe when you work with those in the academia, there is a gap we are feeling when we work together as a team, okay? Integration remains key. Even in the industry, integration remains key. So I must thank you so very much for this wonderful presentation. I also thank the chairman of the technical meeting, Emeka Ejika, FNAPE, for leading us through this event. It was a very wonderful event. And I must also commend all those that asked questions. Our Cretaceous Professor Wajide, Professor Beth Ozumba, and the rest of them. I must commend you. It's a learning experience and a learning process. I wanted to ask many questions, but I said, let me just hold on. Let's hear from the elderly ones. Okay?
Thank you.
So it has been a very wonderful event. I must commend the president of NAPE, Olajumoke Ajayi, FNAPE, for giving us this platform. And her ESCOs. I also thank Dr. Antonio Former, NAPE president-elect, FNAPE as well, for his vote of thanks. I must commend those that came on time. In fact, we are three persons that came on time. Myself, Rita, and Ade what? So three of us, we are here, 15 minutes before time. I think that's how it should be. That's how we should take this serious so that we learn and not popping in and popping out. Okay. The total number of people that participated were about 110 to 115. So they keep fluctuating. That's a very remarkable, participation. I really commend those that participated. So I can't thank all enough. All NAPE fellows, I appreciate you. I appreciate your contribution and your participation. All national schools as well as AOC chapter. I must commend each and every one of you. So I can't thank you enough. So we have to keep researching, keep working, and keep moving. At this point, we have to, we have to call it a break. But remember, our next technical meeting is going to be fantastic. Please, we want you to also key in. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you everyone for participating. I'm Leonard Onoba, AOC Technical Director. Bye.
Prof, I need to greet you personally. I need to greet Professor Leo Onuba. Your paper is one of the biggest papers I use for my Southern Benue Trough study. So okay. It's an honor to meet you in person. Nice to meet you, sir.
It's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We are so grateful to everyone. We can't keep thanking everybody. Thank you so much, and bye-bye for today. May God be with every one of us in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you for participating. Thank you all. Yeah.
Okay, the best to everybody. Greetings.
Thank you. But thank you, everyone.